All right, so we're starting things off now at this hour with U.S. Democratic presidential candidate Kamala Harris having surpassed Republican Donald Trump in a new poll in Iowa. It's a state that Trump easily won back in 2016 and 2020. However, a rival polling group still has Trump leading Harris in the state, and both candidates have been campaigning in battleground states ahead of Tuesday's election. So for more on this, we're joined on the line by SABC News international editor Sophie Mokoena. Sophie, good morning. Thank you for your time at this hour. We're obviously seeing the chess moves and the dynamics unfolding ahead of the 5th of November, but perhaps we could look at what is transpiring, the impact it's also going to be having on South Africa and the continent at large.
Well, I think what is important is to note that with American president, it will always be America first. And therefore, there's not much really to read in terms of whether this one might be better than this one. But when you look at the two candidates, you'll realize that when we focus on foreign policy, the former president, Donald Trump, has taken a very different position previously on issues or the current global issues. When you look at his views around the war in Ukraine, he feels that supporting Ukraine is draining the coffers of the United States of America, and therefore that war must end so that America doesn't continue to support Ukraine with resources. When you look at the Middle East, he has a similar view, much as he supports Benjamin Netanyahu and Israel. But his view is that that war must end because even there you are spending a lot of resources supporting Israel. And therefore he wants that war to end. And we are told that he has already spoken to the president of to the Prime Minister of Israel that it's possible that war must end before he gets into office if he is elected. When you come to the continent, we know his stance in relation to the continent. He has never had much interest in the continent. We know that during his previous term, he didn't even bother to really channel his energy in visiting some countries on the continent. But the reality is when you have a Republican president, he doesn't often change the policy of the Republicans in relation to Africa. And that is why you saw during his term the continuation of PEPFAR and other programs that were aimed at helping Africa. The technicality for us as South Africa, as you know, on the 1st of December, South Africa will be taking over as the chair of the G20, and America is a member of the G20. So we expect the President of the United States of America, whoever might be, to come to South Africa next year. Now, when it's Donald Trump, will he be making a trip down to the south? We don't know. But when you look at Kamala Harris, she's backing Ukraine, she's spending resources on Ukraine, she supports channeling resources in Ukraine, particularly in relation to the position of NATO. When you look at the Middle East, the same, they are supporting Israel, even though they are calling for peace and the two-state solution, but standing behind Israel. On the continent, it might be better, particularly for South Africa, because she is a woman of color, and there might be interest. And previously, the Democrats, as the president, if it is a Democrat, they've always made those trips to the south and also to the continent. Only Biden, and I think it was because of the challenges around the world, he couldn't do that. Recently, he was supposed to go to Angola. He had to postpone the trips because of the issues of the weather in that country that were bad. And therefore, that's the dynamic. But reality is, American president will always put America first.
Thank you for outlining those key issues. Perhaps also just looking at the elections on the continent, regime changes as well, different parties coming in, those dynamics changing in Africa. What are the opportunities, perhaps also the challenges that this will pose to America, to the USA, given the shifting geopolitical landscape and different allegiances as well?
Well, I can't see America changing much in terms of what is happening right now, as I pointed out those different views from those front runners, the main candidates. But when you look at elections on the continent, we saw a smooth transition in Botswana, and I don't think that will be a headache for anybody coming in and even to think about that. When you look at the problem in Mozambique, the Cabo Delgado region has been very unstable, and many countries have been involved in trying to find a solution because there's huge interest in investing in resources of Mozambique. But now you have this situation where the country is tense. We don't even know when is the inauguration, and I think the former South African President Thabo Mbeki summed it well yesterday when he spoke to my colleague Kaya Kumalo about the situation in Mozambique, saying that SADC and countries must stand up quickly to try and find a solution to the current tension in Mozambique. Because the danger here is that, we have so many Mozambicans in South Africa because of the economic issues and the previous civil war. And now you can't afford another civil war. And they are our neighbors. They are just a stone throw away. You can imagine the influx and the tension and even importing such instability into the neighboring countries. And therefore, I think Sulu Hassan, the president of Tanzania, as the chair of the organ on politics and defense, including security in the SADC region, is supposed to be doing something now. And she is familiar with the problem because that region of Cabo Delgado is a neighbor to Tanzania. Actually, the people in Cabo Delgado, some of them have strong relationship with people in Tanzania. They always cross the border. They speak Swahili, and therefore you have to attend to this problem. Secondly, the AU itself must do something, but there's a worrying report coming that the foreign forces that are in Mozambique helping the Mozambican government to repel the insurgents are now caught in this tension between the ordinary citizens of Mozambique and the security apparatus there. And that will be very bad, particularly for a country like Rwanda that has got peace troops in that country. And therefore, I think that issue must be attended with speedily because if they don't address that concern now that those foreign forces that were deployed there to quell the insurgents are now beginning to encroach in the internal security of that country. I think it's something dangerous developing.
Well, we're monitoring all this and more. Sophie, thank you for your time at this hour.